When people hear that I live in Dubai, their first reaction is often something like, oh my god, how can you afford to live there? Isn't everything there ridiculously expensive? But what might surprise you is that that's actually not true. Kind of. To show you that, I have broken down every single expense I have spent money on in a typical week here in Dubai to give you a very realistic idea of what it actually costs to live here in Dubai for a lifestyle that is comfortable but not luxurious or anything like that. And I'm pretty sure you'll be surprised by the result. So I've broken my weekly budget down into the following categories: rent, food, transport, entertainment, and other. So I won't lie, Dubai is definitely a car city, but it's not as much of a car city as you might think. See, the way Dubai works is that it's basically these different communities where every community itself is walkable. Everything you need is inside of that community. But it's when you're trying to transport yourself between these communities that you really either need a taxi or you need to drive, unless you happen to be in the metro line when you can just use the metro. And driving here is actually reasonably affordable. So this car I rented for around 2,000 dirhams per month, which comes out to this number in dollars. And fuel here is obviously very cheap as well because it's an oil producing country. So while you have to drive and the traffic is crazy, it's really not gonna cost you that much. And I also know that used cars here are reasonably cheap to buy. I think their luxury cars are gonna be very expensive, but like normal used cars, it doesn't have to cost you that much, luckily. But now I have to go. But you don't need to drive in Dubai. If you're not driving, you have the metro, which costs just 3 to 5 dirhams per ride. It's really good, except it's not that comprehensive. So unless you happen to be on the metro line, you probably won't be using it that much. But even then, taxis only cost around maybe 20 to 30 dirhams per a 20-minute ride or something like that. All in all, transport is really not that pricey in Dubai at all. So for transport, my weekly costs come out to $147.04 per week, with an asterisk to that, because I'm not actually renting a car every month. Actually, most months I'm not even renting a car. But because I'm renting a car right now, we will stick with this figure of $147.04 for simplicity for transport. Now let's talk about entertainment here in Dubai. I always tell people that Dubai is like a freaking amusement park. Like, there are so many things for you to do here, but the big but is that it all costs money. You have desert activities, which are amazing, like some of the best experiences I have ever done, but they cost a lot of money. You have water activities, but it all costs money. It's not like insanely expensive or anything like that, like don't get me wrong, but everything fun here really is going to cost you a bit of money, so that is really the only thing to keep in mind. Now for me personally, because 9 days out of 10 I'm literally just working the entire day and maybe I go to the gym, I don't really do a lot of this entertaining stuff. I don't really take advantage of it, apart from when people are visiting. So for me it's not really a big deal, but when people do visit, I do take advantage of them, and there are a lot of very amazing things to do, and how much you spend on it will really depend on your lifestyle. I wouldn't recommend necessarily spending all your time entertaining yourself. If you're coming to Dubai to live, I would recommend using it to get ahead in your life rather than just becoming a degenerate, because you do need to be careful here, like, because there's so much of this funness that you can do. It can really be a big distraction if you're not the type of person that's easily able to control yourself, essentially. But now let's go back home. But on average, if we add up Netflix subscription and things like this too, perhaps $100 a month is what I might spend in an average month on entertainment, which comes out to around $25 a week. So not that much really. One tip around entertainment and also eating out I will give you is that there is this app called The Entertainer that gets you access to a bunch of different discounts around a ton of stuff to do around Dubai. So if you're living here long term, definitely recommend you check out this app. So food costs in Dubai can be broken down into two types of food costs: eating out and groceries. And how much you spend on each obviously depends on how much you eat out versus eat in. Now this is one thing where I actually end up spending a lot more in Dubai compared to, for example, in London, which is where I lived before. And there's two reasons for this. Number one is that the food here is absolutely amazing, and also the service in all the places where I eat out is just really, really good out here in Dubai, which leads me to want to eat out more. And another reason that leads me to want to eat out more is that one of my favorite things to do in life is just to sit around a nice restaurant with nice weather, maybe with like palm trees and maybe the ocean, like the smell of the water and things
things like that. I love doing that. And obviously in Dubai, because it's freaking sunny every single day, I just end up feeling like going to eat out a lot more than I would in rainy, grey London, for example. So in terms of the costs, today I ended up going to eat out at this nice cafe around the financial center, and this bagel and a coffee came out to around 75 dirhams, which I would say is on the lower end of what I usually spend. Usually a nice meal would probably come out to around 100 dirhams. It's probably a good estimate of what a regular meal at a decent restaurant around downtown or Marina, etc. is probably going to cost you. Although it can also be done a lot cheaper. There's certain kind of cuisines, like for example Lebanese food, that you can actually get for very, very cheap around here in Dubai. But on average, I probably spent 100 dirhams every single day eating out, which comes out to 700 dirhams, which equals $190.61 per week. Now for groceries, let's take a look at the local grocery store to see some of the prices so you can get an idea. So here's how much regular food items might cost in Dubai. We've got a ribeye steak for 25 dirhams, some ready meal sandwiches for 10 dirhams each, other ready meals for like 15 to 20 dirhams, salad for 7 dirhams, eggs for 11 dirhams 70, tomatoes for 15.95, and you can check out Numbeo for some more numbers based on a lot more data than this. So overall, I probably estimate that I might spend around 300 dirhams every single week on groceries, give or take, which comes out to 81.69 US dollars. So I made a more detailed video about this apartment that I live in here in downtown Dubai, where I break down the cost and what the place is like, as well as tips on how you might pay less for rents and things like this. So go check that out if you're interested. But overall for this place, I pay a total of $3,500 every single month, which is a ton of money. But I pay this much only because I'm renting a monthly here in Dubai, and pretty much in any city as far as I'm aware, it's much cheaper to rent annually. So if I was renting a place like this annually, I could probably get it for like $2,000 to $2,500 a month. But for me, it ends up being $3,500. So overall, I spend this much on rent and bills every single week. And this rent includes all the bills, includes water, includes electricity, includes air conditioning, everything like that. But if you want to get an objective idea of what you might expect here in Dubai, I recommend you check out this website called Numbeo. It's basically a site where you can get a lot of very objective data around what it costs to live in different places around the world. So if we go in here and we search up Dubai, you can see that an average one-bedroom apartment in city center is going to cost on average $1,984, which in my personal experience is very, very accurate based on a lot of the apartments that I've been looking at myself. Outside of the city center, so in a lot of the non-hotspot areas, you can get as low as $1,156 on average. Now, for 3 bedrooms is like 4K, and 2.6 for 3 bedrooms outside of the city center. Now, if you look at the bills, electricity on average is going to be $200 a month. Mobile bill is going to be $63 a month. Internet is going to be $92 a month. But for me as well, even internet and bills and everything like this is going to be included. And then there's other. Now, this one is obviously very hard to estimate on average because it sort of comes in lumps. So if I happen to need some new clothes, for example, like right now I'm about to buy a new gym shirt because my old ones have gotten too small because I've got too hench. But obviously I'm not making these kinds of purchases every single week. So if I were to estimate, like average it out, maybe on like random electronics, clothes, whatever, perhaps $400 a month, so around $100 per week, just to have a bit of a buffer. I really don't spend that much money on a bunch of random stuff. So with all of this put together, an average week for me here in Dubai is going to cost this much, assuming I'm not doing anything crazy, which pretty much just means I'm sitting home here in my apartment and working on making these videos, coding my projects and things like this. Note that this does not include any business spending. I spend money on my video editor, I spend money on a bunch of businessy subscriptions and other stuff. If you want to hear like all the things I spend money on the business side, as well as if you're interested to hear about my income from my 2 YouTube channels and my other projects and things like this, do let me know down below in the comments. And the other thing about living here in Dubai is that even though things can be expensive, like rent is pretty expensive, it is, if you're making a decent amount of money, which I am fortunate enough to make, it is very much worth it because you save so much on taxes compared to living in most of the other major cities around the world. If I was still living in London, 40% of all my money would be going into taxes. And that is why it is just so important that you figure out how to become location independent so you can optimize for where you want to live to minimize your taxes and to minimize your living costs, because it's very hard to do. If you're stuck in New York City, you might be making 100 grand, but that 100 grand is gonna go to taxes and cost of living, so you're really left with no savings. And so I'm so fortunate that I was able to make this leap from being a corporate slave employee to becoming location free. And so on this channel, I wanna, number one, talk about this life around the world that I've been able to build for myself, as well as help as many of you gain this lifestyle and get to this point yourself. So if you wanna start now and you wanna hear my story of how I quit my corporate job and became completely free, you can watch this video right here. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in that video.